Hi guys, welcome to Petty and Punjabi. As you can tell in today's episode, there's only me, Daman, and Jagdeep. To be honest, life hasn't been lifing, but this isn't permanent, so don't get used to it. Stay tuned for today's fun episode.
So, on today's episode, we have a special guest star, Kuhbeezy, formerly known as Brown Boy Beezy. So, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your name?
Of course, what's up, y'all? I'm Kuhbeezy. I'm a singer, songwriter, artist. Love to content create, love to challenge myself to try new things from street interviews to podcasts to vlogs, sports vlogs. If you check me out on social media, you can definitely see all those things. Um, as I mentioned, I go by Kuhbeezy, but some of y'all may know me as Brown Boy Beezy or Beezy or whatever you may have known me as in the past. I have 20 different names. How I came to Kuhbeezy is definitely, there's a lot of deeper meaning behind it because my original name, my birth name is Kabir. And when I started kind of freestyle rapping and making music and producing, I would call myself Kuhbeezy actually. And from there, I decided to shorten it to Beezy. Just sounded cooler. I don't know. Um, but then, Beezy, you try to get that username on Instagram, everywhere else. There's like a million Beezys. So um, then from there, I just eventually went by Brown Boy Beezy. And how Brown Boy Beezy happened is funny because my mom would always call me Brown Boy. She would always see like, like Sonny Malton saying, I'm a brown boy. And she'd be like, yo, what's up, brown boy? Like, just, trolling, whatever. But it like had a ring to it. And then everyone kind of started calling me like it wasn't a weird thing. It was just like, oh, like what's up, brown boy Beezy? And then, it occurred to me, there's so many Beezys are taken. And if I'm brown boy Beezy, it's not taken, it works. And as much as I love brown boy Beezy, like I felt like KB. Well, let me backtrack and say this. Kabir being my first name, my first ever nickname was KB. Like my whole family always called me KB, even in sports, on sports teams, they would call me KB. Just like, sometimes people couldn't say Kabir, in America. So I just make it easy, tell them to call me KB. So no one even told me to change my name. I could have kept going as Brown Boy Beezy, as a stage name. But, a few months ago, I'm just thinking, taking all these trips to New York, being with MVM, no one's really calling me Brown Boy Beezy. Everyone's calling me Kabir. But I want to make it so it's like easier for everybody. So I decided to kind of like merge my real name with Beezy, Beezy being my nickname. So hence like, Kuhbeezy. And if y'all notice the K is capital because it's the first letter, but even the B is capital. And the B is capital because, of course people knew me as Beezy, but also my initials and my nickname was always KB.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your where you where you started, where you're at now, kind of how you got
Sure.
there?
Yeah, it's always confusing in terms of like where I started because I feel like I started in so many different ways as early as like in school when they give you like the recording flutes. I remember I wasn't even super into music, but with something as little as that, I would teach myself songs like Happy Birthday or, stuff like that. And then my mom would, when it would be her birthday, she would always want me to perform in front of like everybody. And I think that's why I don't really have stage fright because I remember as a young kid, she's like, oh, like play Happy Birthday on the recorder. Like I did that. And then later on, I'll tell you guys this is mad interesting. Like I was such a video game nerd growing up. Like I loved playing all types of video games. And there's this one game, Guitar Hero and like Rock Band. I thought it was like a weird game at first. It's like, how can you play the guitar and whatever? Then I played it at a friend's birthday party. I thought it was so cool. I didn't even know much about music. Got the game, played it, like beat the game, whatever. But then, you're playing it, you hear all these songs. It made me want to learn the guitar. So I remember in middle school, you had to get an arts credit to, pass whatever. So they were offering a guitar class. I was like, love Guitar Hero. Why don't I learn the guitar? And from something like that, I was like the most serious student, you could call it. I during lunch, I would play the guitar, I would learn all my favorite songs, and I just really got into music through the guitar. And then even from that, right, being the coolest kid in guitar class, there'd be other people that'd be like, "Oh, bro, like, I play the drums or whatever. Let's, jam out. Let's, like cover some songs." And just from there, um, formed a few bands. The first few weren't even that serious, but I always had this like drive to want to cover songs to the T.
Do you think you lost a lot of relationships growing in this industry and doing what you do?
1,000,000%. I think that's something you have to come to terms with because it's like it's like a one player mode almost, like it's like you versus the world sometimes. Like I have I had a great group and I'm still in contact with, my best friends from high school or whatever growing up, but it's definitely like, a little bit of a distance because majority of them, they work in the corporate field. Like their lifestyle is like different than my lifestyle. Like our timings don't align. I'm traveling all the time. They're stationed in one city, they have to be in office. And I definitely feel like I don't want to, definitely lost friendships. And I think from different things like over jealousy, over just I don't know, them just not approving of it. Um, but I was never like a bad guy or I was never like, an a-hole to anybody. It just they just they just chose that. And I didn't understand it at first, but I've just learned that, when you do right by yourself and you just keep going, like the right ones that are meant for you are gonna, you know, fall into place.
Do you have any regrets about going into this industry or anything you wish you could have changed?
Um, Minor regrets. There were some times early on where I was offered to songwrite for some people, and I didn't even understand the industry back then. This is like very early when I'm talking to real like music industry, like record label executives, where I was so early to the point where they knew they couldn't really break me as an artist yet because I had so much to learn. But what they would say is, oh, like, would you be open to songwriting? And initially I would say no, but then I realized, a lot of these, I realized way later, a lot of these artists that even came onto the scene were writing for artists, kind of building their name up, winning the respect of these, not only executives, but the big artists that they were writing for. And then eventually what happens is like you write a song for these people, you write a whole song, and there's like a section where sometimes they'll let you like keep your part in one of the sections, and next thing you know you have a feature with like a big artist. So that's like one of the things I would say I regret. Another thing I regret is maybe just not starting earlier. I feel like if I started earlier, the earlier you start, the further ahead you could have been. So I would say things like that. But in terms of like making the music, nah, like I'm very happy with it, and I really feel like I'm meant for it.
Question. With your career right now, do you think that is impacting your personal life when it comes to your relationships, your friendships, just the time management, your career choices?
For sure. With relationships, whether it be like a intimate relationship or like a like friendship type of relationship, I think it's hard for people to understand once again, kind of like what goes into the life. I think being an artist, it's like nothing, it's so hard for things to be planned out in advance. I'll be here right now in the DMV, but then I could get a call tomorrow saying, hey, like we have this thing in New York. Like, you can just be on the run, like, and you never know. Like I could be on a flight to LA next week, like kind of thing. You just kind of always have to be on standby. But um, to answer your question, yeah, like it definitely makes things hard, but I think the best way to combat that is to find a team to surround yourself around and it's hard to find a team that's, able to just hop on the road with you and do everything with you. But, some of these bigger people, they have that. And that's hopefully I can work towards that.
I have a question. What would you like, what advice would you give to someone who's starting out in this industry? Like if you had to like start all over?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely changed from when I first started. Now it's like you have to literally be a content creator. So my advice is don't be afraid to be a content creator. It's very tough, easier said than done to just pull out like, a phone and, just start recording yourself and posting it on your public store, for the world to see. But how are you going to get, exposure if you don't do that? You have to not be afraid to put yourself out there. And I would say, don't be afraid to, content create and put yourself out there and study. Like, it's like an exam, right? Like if you're not going to pass an exam or do well without preparation, you have to see who fits your vibe, like in terms of, who your idols are and kind of take notes, maybe study their journey, how they got there. Of course, the timing, like I said, the game is different from when I started. Like I kind of started towards the tail end of the SoundCloud days, if y'all remember that. Great time, by the way. Um, but now it's just social media, TikTok, short form content, spamming videos, right? Um, so I would say that and just yeah, just studying and seeing what works and persistency gets you in the right doors.
I know you mentioned MVM, the Desi Party group that you're, a part of. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
For sure. So MVM, the motto is bringing India to the world. Um, Big shout out to my boy Vedant Mahajan. He's the founder of it and the visionary behind the whole thing. Little backstory is, they started in India. This guy was throwing really cool parties in India, then found his way in London, and it was just like another level of difficulty being in London, trying to do events in big nightclubs. And, through hard work and persistency, he found his way and, got into a good nightclub through an amazing event. And, the word of mouth kind of spread. He was growing the brand's name in London to a point where I would say London is like when they really took off, and it took off to a point where they were like, all right, now, let's go to the United States. Um, and when they came to the US, they were doing a lot of Boston and New York City events. I would say it started in New York and in Boston, and pretty much, they've been expanding, but what the parties are is, you know, they're the top of the top Bollywood parties. Uh, It's a cool setup too. Normally, from opening time to midnight, or at least the first few hours, they play worldwide bangers, American music, whatever, just whatever's like, doing well worldwide. And then, at midnight or, a few hours in, they start playing the Bollywood music the rest of the night. And, we talk about the best kind of party. They literally have the biggest guests and stars coming up to these events. Like you have Shah Rukh Khan, like his kids. You have athletes like David Beckham, his kids. You have sports stars. You have actors, actresses, comedians, rappers. Punjabi artists, or like all types of celebrities. You never know who you're gonna run into at a MVM event. The most recent one I was at, we had, and this is like a random list, but we had like Suhana Khan, Tesher, um, Sirat Saini, it's a lot of different star power in the building. So, they really throw these, think of like a lavish Gatsby Bollywood vibe. They really do a great job with making it a high quality experience. And, I tapped in with Vedant on Instagram. We followed each other and then, tapped in on WhatsApp. I came to New York to meet him when they were having an event. I was in Miami. I wasn't even trying to leave Miami. I was like, I kind of want to stay here, but he wanted to meet, so I met him in New York at his event. Loved it, had a good time. Found some time to hang out with him one on one the next day, and we just talked about how we could help each other. And he offered me a spot to join the team. And from there, it's been amazing. I try to help him out in whatever way I can, try to bring my audience, my group out there. Like I highly encourage everyone to, check it out. It's a great experience. If you like Bollywood music or if you have friends who want to, check out that type of scene, it's an amazing time. And, I've met a lot of cool people through it. And I'm excited for MVM to really take over. We added Chicago as one of our cities um, a few months ago, I think in like April, early April, I think, or something like that. And I remember when I sat with him, I was telling him, I have people in Chicago, I have people in DC, people in Miami. Like I feel like, I could help with events in those areas. And it's just crazy. We talked about this in January, then months later we make Chicago happen, and now next weekend we're making DC happen. So, it's just such a cool thing to be a part of. And like I said, I'm just excited to see where they take it. Hopefully Miami happens soon, but yeah, MVM coming to a city near you.
But you mentioned, some artists that have been helpful. Do you want to talk a little bit maybe about, I know that Brub is a big one that you've worked with, maybe any other people that you've kind of had either the opportunity to work with or like just, helped you in this like journey to get to where you are?
Yeah, Prub is super cool. We haven't, we've talked about collaborating in a lot of different ways, and I'm sure soon we'll figure something out. In terms of other artists, I'm trying to think. The biggest artists, I would say there was an opportunity one time. I'll tell you the story. So this is when I was with LA. I was actually with a music agency. And what the agency did was they got me a one-on-one label meeting with Atlantic Records. And how that meeting kind of went was you play like 20 to 30 seconds of a song. You play like 3 to 5 songs. They listen to it for like 20, 30 seconds, get the vibe of it, next song. So I was feeling mad confident going into it, but I already knew they were gonna like see me, like, they see Monday, like, oh, what's he gonna do? Like, whatever. So I go in there, play the first song, and the song had like singing and rapping in it. So he was like, as soon as the vocals came in, he's like, "Oh, like that's you rapping?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's me." And then the singing comes in. He's like, "That's you singing too?" I was like, "Yeah, like this is my song." And played him the rest of the songs. First thing he asks me was, "Are you open to songwriting for other artists?" And at that point, like I knew like to say yes. So I was like, yeah, like I'm definitely open to it. And he's like, "How do you feel about giving that first song to A Boogie with the Hoodie?" And I was like, yeah, like I'm down for it. Let's make something happen. So this guy was like, he seemed so for real. He was like, "All right, cool. So make sure you take my number down." He made me text him. He's like, "All right, like text me so I like, get the blue message and all that." So then he says, "All right, now that I got your contact info, um, I'm gonna be traveling to Europe for 2 weeks. When I come back, I want to bring you to the Atlantic HQ. I want you to write some choruses. Like I want you to come in and like, come to the office and like, work." So I'm like, "Sweet. I'll hit you up when you come back." And, as soon as I left, I'm just like counting the days down. It's like, all right, day 2, day 3, day 8, day 9, day 10. By the time it's like day 14, I hit him up, ghosted, completely ghosted. Uh, so that was one, I guess, potential opportunity. I don't know what happened with it, but that taught me that in this industry, whenever someone like proposes like a wild idea to you, like it's never for real until it's actually like, being put into motion. Um, Yeah, I was gonna also say like, in terms of Prub, like how I met him was pretty cool. Super organic too. I had a show at Penn State a few months ago. Penn State was doing like a Desi festival, and you know I got booked on my own accord. They reached out to have me perform. I was like, excited to do it. And then I would say maybe a few weeks before the event, they announced Prub to kind of headline the whole thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. They told me that I was gonna open for him, like I was gonna perform right before him. There's a whole lineup throughout the day, but I was gonna be the one that went right before him. And in doing that, so I think I had like a 15-minute, 20-minute set. I don't even know how many songs I did, but I think he heard because he was going right after me. He gets there as I'm finishing up my set. He probably heard like my last three songs and did my thing. And then afterwards, it was time for him to perform. Just vibed out, enjoyed it. And then after he finished, I just wanted to go up to him and, just say, hey, what's up, man? Like, I love what you do. Like, dope performance tonight. Before I even got a chance to say anything to him, he was like, bro, like, I really like your voice, man. Like, good work. Like, I like what you're doing. And that was so dope because from there, we're in a college town, Penn State. We hung out the whole night, partied together, and just got each other's information, stayed in contact, stayed in touch. And then not too long ago, actually, he got booked to perform in Chicago. And as we were in touch, he was saying, bro, like you should come. You should come pull up. And I wasn't even booked for this. No one hit me up about it, but he was saying, yo, like I'm going to Chicago. And I've actually been going to Chicago the last few months for some other stuff. I'm a part of this Daisy party group called MVM. So I've been going to Chicago already. And I told him, bro, Chicago's so amazing. You're gonna have so much fun. Being his first time there, he was like, bro, like you should pull up, you should come. And I was hesitant, but I was honestly just gonna go to support him, but my boy pulled some strings and he got me to open for him to perform once again. And it's just ever since then, it's just become a real brotherhood. So, I really love the dude. He's an amazing guy. He's so genuine. There have been a lot of artists I've met who I'm not gonna say any names, but they're superficial or I don't know. He's not like that, and I wish the best for him. I think he's gonna go really far, and I'm excited to do some work with him and, show my Punjabi side.
I did say last question, but like, who is your biggest inspiration? Like, who would you say like you really look up to? It doesn't have to be music style wise. Maybe it's just how
Yeah.
they've moved in the industry or whatever.
There's two people, and these people are like so random, no one would really expect it. And maybe you'd expect one of them, but I would say Logic and Nav, believe it or not. The reason being is so Logic, he's from Maryland, like I'm from Maryland, I'm from the DMV. I was actually born in Virginia, by the way. I'm technically a Nova baby, but yeah, no, I got love for both. I know there's like a mini rivalry or something. I don't know. I don't like maybe I play both sides, but I did grow up in Maryland, and with that being said, when I was in high school, Logic was our local rapper. Like he wasn't big, he wasn't doing like, but he would do these free hangouts at Montgomery Mall, like right here. He'd be like on Facebook, he'd be like, "Hey guys, like I'm gonna be at Montgomery Mall, come hang out with me." And from him being so accessible and being like the local artist to getting signed to Def Jam and then making a song like 1-800, getting that like Grammy nominated, watching him literally like across the street become a big artist gave me faith that you can make it out of this area. So that's definitely a big inspiration. And then Nav, of course, is like he's a Punjabi artist in the in the English music industry, and I grew up listening to all types of music, but I went to a really Americanized school, an Americanized environment. Like my high school hardly had Daisies. Like my grade probably had like 8 to 12 Daisies in it. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, so um I was always known as that like token brown kid a lot of the time. And being around friends that listen to like American music, yeah, just seeing Nav do it, it just showed that, you don't have to only make like Desi music or Punjabi music. You can, do whatever you put your mind to. So those are definitely two big inspirations. One guy like locally, did it, and then another guy of the same kind of heritage, and he also did it. So I'll say those two.
Yeah, I think it's always cool to see like everyone love Nav. Like it's not just a Punjabi people thing, like pride in a Punjabi guy making it. It's like people really genuinely listen to him. So that's pretty cool.
No, of course. And there's a lot of other Desis like coming on the scene too, and like the like American, the Hollywood, whatever you want to call it, music scene.
I think just in the industry in general, right?
Yeah.
I do have a question just on this topic. This can be the last one, sorry.
You can ask as many questions.
I just want to know, do you ever feel forced to represent Punjabi culture? And if you do, how do you respond to that?
I don't feel forced because when I started making music, I didn't really try to show that I was like, or not show, but I didn't really try to say that I was, Desi or Punjabi or anything like that. But I think when I made my name Brown Boy Beezy, that's when I really kind of, took a look at myself in the mirror. It's like, like there's so many layers to me. I don't have to act like I don't know anything or like, I don't have to act like I don't have to look the other way. I am proud of where I come from, and I like, I like just, how I am.
Do you want to play a game?
I love games.
Oh, actually,
All
hit it.
right. Okay, so Ashu's gonna play a song for us, and we're gonna try to guess. And
Okay.
let's get it first.
Okay, I think you need to raise your hand if you know the answer.
I feel like that's so boring.
Damn. Wait, just scream it?
Scream it. I feel
Just
like that's
scream it.
more fun. Yeah.
But I'm just gonna play from a random spot, and I'm only gonna play a couple seconds.
Oh, gosh.
If you get the lyric, you get the lyric. If not, you get the sound. I don't know. Just figure it out. Okay. Are you guys ready? Yeah. Let me make sure my phone's on full volume. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
It sounded like BK, but I
The
don't.
47.
Yes. Wow, he got it. Okay.
Wow.
Ready?
Suck. Diljit?
Yeah.
Patola?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Wow, you guys are better than I thought. Okay, let's do this one.
It's cutting
Wait,
out.
I can't hear it.
Let's try that again.
You can't hear it, can y'all?
I heard like
She turned it off, right?
Oh, you played it
Yeah.
for a second.
Okay, should I play it again?
If
yeah.
that's okay.
Okay, let me find a different part though. Okay.
It's definitely Sidhu.
Yeah.
I don't know
Pulsar di Gediyan.
I'm fully
what
into
it's
it.
called. I
Insan
don't know what
Kude.
it's called. I'm gonna get canceled.
Tell me if you want me to
Does
replay.
it start with a B?
Can you
Yes.
is it B-Town?
No.
No, it's not B-Town.
Can you play like a different section of it?
Yes.
Bad fella.
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay.
Pimp by 50 Cent.
You girls are so bad at this. That's crazy.
I'm bad?
No,
I
no,
feel
no,
like-
them too. You
Oh.
are doing amazing.
Okay.
I hope you do better. Oh. Like 5 more seconds. I was about to say the name, I'm pretty sure.
The only thing is, I don't know what section to play because then it could give it away. Okay,
I
let's
think,
see.
yeah, it was about to give it away, I think.
Mhm.
I know this.
Isn't it Na 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 Minu Shady Na?
Yeah.
Is-
Oh, it's shady now, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know who the singer is.
Is it Shub?
Hmm.
Is it from his like more it's not the most recent album, is it?
I have no idea.
Something it's something. Oh my God. I don't know what the name is. I know the song, but I don't know what the name is.
I don't know that name.
You guys give up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys want me to tell you?
Yes, Ashu.
It's called We Rollin'.
Oh, I knew it had something to do with cars. Gala karti.
Jazzy B.
Oh, mithiyan ji ne mera dil luttiya.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Mm.
That's a massive.
Yes.
How did you get that so fast?
I think it's the beat that gives it away.
Yeah, it's the beat.
Okay, let's
One
do.
Direction, I'll get it.
Future.
Do you know the name?
Can you play that beat one more time?
The same part?
Yeah, you can play the same part. Yeah. It's throw away.
Yep.
Okay, work.
Okay, last one. Ready?
Oh,
Maybe
come
by
on.
Justin Bieber.
No.
Oh, it's Jay Sean.
Down, good shot. Oh, I thought she was joking.
No, I wasn't.
Bye. You're canceled.
I
Cancel.
Canceled.
I meant. Okay. Anyway, that was embarrassing.